right. So welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Looking forward to this one.
Me too. This one is it's a little bit different. I think it'll resonate with folks, especially as we're getting into the Lenten season here. But it's really for anybody, right? Like, I don't think you have to be, following the church calendar to appreciate the
Though
message.
it's universal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we have here, it's actually a Lenten devotional excerpt, really short, but really packs a punch in terms of imagery and
Wow.
feeling.
It's based on Song 17, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
It is. And just a brief little recap. Psalm 17. That's where David is praying for refuge from his enemies,
A
right?
lot of those.
Yeah, exactly. So he's really appealing to God for protection and guidance. What's interesting about this devotional is how it picks up on this idea of seeking shelter under the shadow of his wings.
It's beautiful imagery, isn't it?
It really is. It's powerful stuff. And the author, Quantia Edmonds, she's a member of St. James African Methodist Episcopal Church. And you're just reading through it strikes me as something that could speak to anyone going through a tough time, regardless of their faith background.
I think that's the beauty of these kinds of universal metaphors, right? They transcend sort of specific religious doctrines and speak to a more, kind of fundamental human experience.
Right. It's about that deep longing for security, for, feeling safe and protected and loved and cared for.
Hmm.
And so the devotional itself, it zeroes in on verses 6 through 8 of Psalm 17, where David is really, crying out to God.
Yeah, there's such a sense of urgency there, right? Like he's pleading for God's intervention, like immediately.
Exactly. And I think it's important to remember the context here. David, he was constantly facing threats.
Mm.
King Saul trying to kill him, his own son Absalom rebelling against him.
I mean, talk about family drama.
Right. It was high stakes stuff. And so
Yeah.
when he talks about the shadow of his wings, it's not just some, abstract poetic idea. It's a very real need for safety and protection.
Mm, absolutely. And that just makes his faith even more powerful, right? I mean, to face those kinds of dangers and still have that unwavering trust in God, it's really something.
Yeah, and I think that's what Edmonds is getting at in this devotional. It's about recognizing that we all face our own battles, right?
Oh, for sure.
And that we can find that same sense of refuge in God's presence, not just physical safety, but emotional and spiritual protection too.
Yeah, I love how she uses the image of a mother bird sheltering her young. It's so tender and reassuring.
Right. It creates this feeling of absolute security and love.
And it's not just about passively waiting for God to protect us, right? It's about actively seeking that shelter, making a conscious choice to lean into that comfort and strength.
Exactly. And that leads us to the affirmation and prayer that Edmonds includes at the end of the devotional.
Yeah, I love those parts.
Me too. They're so powerful, and they really emphasize, God's constant love and protection and presence.
Yeah, and it's not just about feeling good, right? There's actual research that shows how affirmations and prayer can actually change our mindset.
Really?
Yeah, it's fascinating. They can help to reduce stress and anxiety and foster a deeper sense of peace and well-being.
So it's like we're training our minds to find that refuge in God, even when things are tough.
Exactly. When we repeat those affirmations like God hears me, God protects me, it strengthens our faith and our trust in his care.
So powerful. And I think that's the key takeaway here for our listeners, right? We have this incredible source of strength available to us no matter what we're going through.
Absolutely. We're not alone in our struggles.
Yeah.
There's a refuge waiting for us under the shadow of his wings.
And that's something we can actively seek out, right? We can bring our worries and fears and challenges to God and trust that he's there to guide and protect us.
Beautifully said. So I guess the question for our listeners is, what are those things that you need to bring to God today? What burdens are you carrying that you could lay at his feet?
Yeah. What are you holding on to that's keeping you from experiencing that peace and that security that's available to you?
I think that's a great place to leave it.
Yeah, I think so too. So thanks again for joining us for this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
And until next time, may you find refuge under the shadow of his wings.
Amen to that.